After the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, the worst the world had ever seen, scientists had a problem. The soil was poisoned, radioactive metals soaked deep into the ground. How do you pull poison back out of the earth? Their answer sounds insane. They planted cannabis, and it worked. Hemp went into that contaminated ground and drank the toxin right out of it. Heavy metals, radioactive isotopes, pulling them up out of the soil and locking them away inside the plant. Cannabis, it turned out, is one of the nature's greatest cleanup machines. Now, sit with that for 1 second because that exact same superpower is the single most terrifying thing about turning this plant into a medicine. Let me explain. And I promise by the end of this you will never look at the word tested the same way again. Here's what's going on. Cannabis is what scientists call a hyperaccumulator. In plain English, it's a sponge. Whatever is in the soil, the water, the air around it, it does not just tolerate it, it actively sucks it up and concentrates it inside itself. That's why it can clean a disaster zone. But flip that around, if that plant is grown in the soil with the traces of lead or cadmium or arsenic, it drinks those up too. Pesticides spread nearby, in it goes, and it does not just absorb these things, it concentrates them. The plant can end up with a higher concentration of a toxin than the ground it grew in. So here's the myth I want to detonate right now. People hear natural and think pure. It's just a plant, it's a clean, it's safe. With a hyperaccumulator, the opposite can be true. This plant is only as clean as everything it ever touched, and it has a talent for hoarding the bad stuff. Natural does not mean safe. Sometimes natural means it soaked up whatever was around and hid it in a flower. That is the problem quality control exists to solve, and now you understand why it does not boring paperwork. It's the line between medicine and the poison. So, what are the testers actually hunting for? Think of it as a lineup of invisible enemies, and every single batch has to be cleared of all of them. Heavy metals, lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, the very things the plant is famous for hoarding. Pesticides, because the contaminant sprayed on the crop ends up concentrated in the product. Microbes, bacteria that should not be there. Mold and the toxin mold produces, some of which are among the most potent cancer causing compounds known in nature, and residual solvents, leftovers from the extraction step we talked about last episode, the must be driven down the trace levels. Every one of those is invisible. You cannot see it, smell it, or taste it. The flower can look perfect and be dangerous. The only thing standing between a contaminant and a patient is a lab result. No pass, no product. That's the rule. And here's what it gets deeper, because no poison is only half the job. Imagine a medicine where the dose was different every time you took it. One day strong, the next year nothing, the next year double. That's not a medicine, that's a gamble. And remember from episode 5, this plant is naturally inconsistent. Branch to branch, batch to batch, it drifts. So second mission of quality is consistency. Every batch has to hit the same numbers, the same cannabinoid content, the same profile, the cam-over fingerprint we built back in episode 3. And I mean measured to the decimal point with the instruments that can detect a fraction of percentage. Is detective grade chemistry run on every batch whose entire job is to answer one question: is this one identical to the last one? Because in medicine, a surprise is a failure. Now, the part almost nobody thinks about: time. Because being perfect on the day you make it is not enough. A medicine sits on a shelf. And his callback for the day one crowd. Remember, the plant makes cannabinoids as acids and heat, and the time change them. That doesn't stop at the factory door. Cannabinoids slowly degrade, THC left to the age and oxidize, quietly turns into a different compound entirely. The product you made is chemically on a slow clock. So there is a whole discipline called stability testing, whose job is to answer, will this product still be exactly what the label says, not just today but in 6 months, in a year, at the very end of its shelf life. You have to prove your medicine can survive time itself, and if it cannot hold its specs, that does not a shelf life, that's a expiry. Pull all this together and you realize something. Behind every consistent, safe, boring in the best way product, there is an invisible army you never see. It's called good manufacturing practice, and its unofficial motto is brutal and brilliant. If it was not documented, it did not happen. Every step recorded, every test logged. Full traceability, you can take a finished product and trace it all the way back to the exact plant it came from. And at the very end of the chain, a qualified expert has to personally put their name to each batch. The gatekeeper we met in the export episode, certifying it before it can go anywhere near a patient. Nobody throws a party for the batch that was fine. There's no headline that says medicine worked exactly as expected today. But every single one of those uneventful, boring, identical batches is a quiet victory in a war you never see being fought. So here's a reframe, and it ties this whole series together. We started 6 episodes ago marveling at how would this plant is Asian, untamed, a survivor that spread across the whole planet and can literally drink poison out of the ground. We admired that wildness, and the entire mission of quality of medicine is to defeat it, to take a chaotic, inconsistent, contaminant hoarding, time degrading organism and forced to be safe, identical, and stable every single time. The same superpower that cleaned Chernobyl is exactly what quality control has to be scared. Nature built a sponge, people turn it into a promise, and that promise that every dose is clean, correct, and same as the last is the least glamorous and most important thing in this entire story. So, the next time you see the word tested on something medical, don't skim past it. That tiny word is standing on top of an enormous invisible machine, one that exists because this beautiful wild plant will absolutely betray you if nobody is watching. We have now gone from a wild plant through its biology to a safe and standardized medicine. Next time we zoom out to the human story, how cannabis went from ancient remedy to the modern medicine, and what the evidence really says. If this one rewired how you think about natural, you know what to do. That's episode 6. See you in the next time.